I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. Call the meeting of the Administrative Services Committee for April 5th, 2023 to order. It is 8:32 on that clock in the back. Roll call, Teresa.
Here.
Matt. Here. Pam.
Here.
And I'm here. We have a quorum. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes from March 8th?
So moved.
By Teresa, second by Matt. Any changes or corrections? Not seeing anybody. All those in favor of the minutes as presented for March 8th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're approved. Anything on the public comment?
Not
Okay.
a single person.
No one signed up for public comment. Member comments? Okay, we're going to go right through this. New business. County strategic plan.
I'm so excited about this. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank Alicia and Pete for leading the presentation at your March Cal meeting. I apologize I couldn't be there, but we all know how important the strategic plan is and how passionate we are as an organization with the strategic plan. So what you have in the packet is two versions of the strategic plan. One's a clean copy, hopefully we're easy reading, and one is the red line. And what I'd like to do is just focus on the red line because that incorporates, or should incorporate, the changes that were discussed and subsequently reviewed. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to you on how formal of a presentation you want to go, or if you just want to discuss some of those changes, or...
If you can throw the changes up there, I would say go through them and let board members pick which ones they want to do, if you can do that. I have copies here, and I've already gotten the hand signal from staff. I know HR's got their changes in your changes.
Yes. I'm sorry, is there any way to pull it up on the packet? Yeah, the meeting clerk. I apologize, I didn't be this quick into the meeting, so.
We
can.
I don't mind it's not loading very quickly. I've been sitting here for a little bit.
No, me too. Mine's not working either.
Mine's
we were
working.
just looking at it.
Thank you for saying that.
Did you start it early when you got here though, like a good chair?
Well, I did start before I called the meeting order.
Well,
If you prefer to just.
yeah, you know what?
Jeopardy music.
Go get it.
Haven't you seen that little brown spot on his nose on occasion?
I like to be the brown house girl, and I'm failing terribly here.
I too, I've gone in and out thinking it was me, but thank you.
I'm saying.
Just be quick, right?
Electronic issue. On paper, we'd be done by now.
Well, we could do the routine.
I'll be there.
You guys want to do the
We
routine
could do the routine
consent
consent
agenda
agenda,
while they're
sure.
at this?
Yeah.
Why
Sure.
not?
Sure.
Anything you want to pull off the routine consent
Nothing
agenda?
for me.
7-1.
7-1, okay.
I probably should have waited to be called, but.
Well, it's so many people here. Anything else? Can I
Then
get
I'll make a motion to
for-
approve the consent agenda minus 7.1.
Second.
Second. Made by Pam, seconded by Matt. Matt, yes or no?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Yes.
Pam, yes, and I'll vote yes. So 7.2 through 7.6 are approved.
Then I'll make the motion to approve 7.1.
I'll second it.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
I have to say I appreciate, I emailed for all of the agenda items, I emailed probably somebody about all of them, and so they were I appreciate staff being so responsive and responding to me. I didn't pull your items because you responded. And I had said to Cheryl I was gonna pull 7.1 so she could tell us this impact that we're having by not meeting the suggested industry standard, so.
So, again, when you look at the number of staff, we have about 1,100 regular staff, full-time and part-time staff. When you look at SHRM recommendation, they say for an organization of 1,000, it's usually 1 per 100. If you have a really small organization, that proportion is going to be higher because you still got to do everything, but it's for less people. But for a size of 1,000, they're saying 1 to 100. So Teresa asked me what was the impact of us not having that number. And it's programming. It's programming that we could be doing. Like right now, again, I'm asking for 1 more person because our wellness program could be expanding by leaps and bounds. We just had a very successful wellness run. We earned an incentive back from IPBC of over $100,000 to support wellness programming, but we have limited staff potential to do a lot of programming. So that's part of it. Another thing is as we begin to do more compensation studies every 2 years instead of every 5 years, and that takes more staff time. There's, as we get into more intensive programming to retain because of the market, we don't want to lose what we have. It's more programming, it's more training, it's more development, it's more surveys and adjusting and trying to make this an environment that people want to stay at. Where before it was like, well, there's going to be 200 people who apply for that job and we'll just pull somebody off that list. Well, so recruitment, we can't just pull people off lists. We actually have to go out there on Indeed and search for people who are qualified and say, would you apply for our job? We're a great place. It takes a lot more work, and it's a higher level of work than just pulling applicants off of a list. So the world of HR has evolved significantly, and it has potential to do even more. But it's very limited if we don't have more person power. Our plates are all really full right now, and it's exciting what we can do, and there's things that I would like to do, but again, a staff person would make sure that we do get those things done and we get them done in a way that's effective, and we don't burn out staff.
And so my next question would be are we going to be successful in finding someone? I know, I'm sorry.
Well, I have the vacancy
Yes.
list, and we can
Yes.
get into that conversation some more about where we've been struggling with some of these positions. So some of them, we just had an example of somebody we found on Indeed. They came in, they interviewed, they were excited, and then they had other options and they went somewhere else because they really wanted to do more hands-on instead of with clients instead of doing administrative related work.
Joe, can you remind how we're going to approach the cost share on this position if it's approved?
Yeah, so in the HR department, we have two pots of money that we work with. One is a general fund HR's fund, and the other one is the wellness fund, employee benefit fund. But we also, through the IPBC, have some money over here for wellness that we've earned. And so we can tap into that also. So this first year, this position, to finish out the year would be a little over $20,000 including benefits if we started July 1st. We could pull that. We probably have enough money in the employee benefit fund, but we also have the money out here that we've kind of designated as employee wellness programming money. But until we have enough staff to work with the programming, it's kind of sitting there. So
And
we
you
could.
said the IPVC is going to give us more money now because we got the 500 people we opened.
In November, we will get that 100,000 because this past year, well, nope. In November, when they do the audit, yeah, we'll get that 100,000, 100 and something thousand.
Any other questions? Okay, let the record reflect that Terry is dated in with us. Okay, in that case, Matt,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes?
Terry?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Dan?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So
Thank you.
7.1's taken care of. We'll now go back to 6.1. Go ahead, Scott, now that you're on the screen.
Strategic plan discussion, take two. All right. So the red line draft, I think, would be great to guide this discussion. One of the most significant changes you'll see is an inclusion of an introduction. This came out from the workshop, and I think it was a great suggestion because it provides context to the strategic plan. The document itself is simple, and that was by design. It's not a full-blown 30-page document. It really is just to hit the nuts and bolts of what the county's priorities and goals and objectives are. But the introduction does provide that context, and it provides a little description of the categories that frame your strategic plan. So we can open any changes or suggestions that you may have to this. The intent was trying to capture at a high level those categories. One change we'll make, I'm going to put on the screen, is I'm going to, in leadership and governance, replace the word from reduction to control. I think that's a much more fitting word to use. And I thank County Administrator Austin for, when he went through this, suggested that this is something we ought to look at. So with that, are there any thoughts, suggestions, changes, comments regarding the introduction? Okay, all right. And then within the document itself, the intent was and the effort was to incorporate those proposals that were brought up at the January 12 workshop and then further discussed at your March COW meeting. There really was not much of a change between those two discussions. There were some minor tweaks, but really the intent was to the extent possible, incorporate those into the document, into the context where they it would most appropriately fit. And this document desires to do so. Starting off with under leadership and governance, goal 2, there's a desire to reference some training for our appointed boards and commissions. There's a concern that we put these people into service for the county, but we don't give them the appropriate guidance or training on how to conduct an efficient meeting. So we want to rectify that. I think this action item addresses that, and hopefully that captures the thought appropriately. Moving forward under leadership and governance, under goal number 5, this is really focusing on our shared services and our collaborative efforts with our municipal partners and other agencies. The last bullet point, identify and prioritize opportunities for shared service. I'd like to get the committee's thoughts on that because we added this in, it was brought forward as a proposal, but the second bullet point really in many respects captures the same thought and concept. So we almost now built in a redundancy. My recommendation would be to just to strike that because it always, I believe, would be captured in that second bullet point.
So,
Right ahead.
is one of the things I see for prioritizing opportunities for shared services, not just shared services at the county level, but trying to find a way for the whole county to try to do shared services with municipalities too, so that we can bring down these tax costs.
Control those tax costs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I almost think like we're too specific in the second bullet point because we're talking about just in our departments.
That's the only control we
Except that.
have.
I mean, I think we're on it. You are investing that in the county coordinator position, and
Right.
And I think we are showing examples of that and looking for more. But I accept that as maybe wanted to highlight it.
I mean, I think it's embedded in that the county would do that, but you can't require other people to do, we lead, the county can lead those endeavors. So that's part of our strategic plan.
I think
So you're saying, or you're saying you'd like to keep two or make it less specific?
No,
That's just-
I like 2 as is, because I think that is our strategic plan, what we do, what the county board does with our area of control. And when it says identify and prioritize, I think they're 2 different things, is where I'm going.
Oh, okay.
I just identify and prioritize is one aspect. If you want to put them together, Scott, you're better at wordsmithing than I am. But I think it is both. It's identifying them and then supporting and encouraging our departments. So we, as county board members, are helping identify, which is more to what Teresa, I think, is trying to say. And then we're also encouraging and supporting. So I don't care if they're incorporated together, but I do think they're kind of two distinctly different goals.
So if we add prioritizing in that second bullet point, and then if we add to the end with internal and external partners?
Yeah, I don't want to speak out because I like the 2 points, because I do believe one is internal, one is external.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
even some more wordsmithing, as you say, at that bottom line to make it feel more external, but I actually like it, because the identification end of it is important.
That would be
And
too
opportunities as a broad umbrella of what could be opportunities for the county and municipal partners. I like the 2 pieces.
I don't care if they incorporate it into one, as long as it's understood it is, there's a difference there.
Well, so my challenge would be, and I think Pam made a point, we can only control what we can control. We can't.
Well, we
tell
understand that
We understand
these are goals that we might not
Yeah.
succeed at.
But it doesn't mean we can't identify
Right,
them.
and that's what I
Right,
said. I
that's the
like the
difference,
words of
Scott. That's what I'm saying.
identify
We can do,
and
but we can identify
Sure.
areas that
Right.
we think we should engage in conversations. Can't force them to do it,
That's right.
but we certainly can take an idea to our partners and discuss it.
Those 2 words work very well.
Yeah,
So-
ditto.
So understood. So with the addition of, with external partners at the end of this one, that,
I can live with it or without it, just, yeah,
I
like
think
that.
that helps.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too, it just clarifies
Okay.
it.
awesome. All right, we'll call that one done. Moving on, so in leadership and governance, there were 3 additional goals that were added. Educate residents of county processes and how to become involved. Really, the intent is, we do so much with the county, and a lot of people do not truly understand what we do unless you're, head deep into the county business. You don't understand what they do. So the intent was to provide some more educational opportunities, resources, campaigns. Our communication staff has been doing that. A lot of our departments have created some videos. I'll make a reference to our county clerk's website. There's actually a great video on the tax process. If you haven't seen that, I would strongly suggest that. We had a presentation, and we have another presentation on the assessment process and how that works. Just really keeping those efforts going. This goal and these action items really just help recognize and acknowledge that this is something important to the county, that we show people what we do and how we do it, and so that they're educated and they understand. Goal number 9, explore sustainable funding sources. This really is focusing in on looking at how the county operates. All of these are in reference to transportation related. As you can see, DOT is a key contributor to these goals. But these were identified through the discussion of knowing that the landscape is changing, especially with transportation funding. As EV, electric vehicles gain a greater foothold, that's going to impact how motor fuel tax is collected and dispersed, or I should say the amount of it. There's questions about the infrastructure to put that in. On here, as you'll note, this is something that was suggested too after further discussions, just so you're aware, to evaluate the county's role in funding township bridges. Right now, the county takes a very active and priority, or not a priority, but a key funding role for township bridges. That's something that the county has done. It's not something that the county has to do. What this is suggesting is the county board and the transportation committee initially look at what is the role and how should that funding take place, and should the townships have a greater contribution to that. So any questions on the goal number 9? The action items, I said, are related to DOT, but this is a broad heading, and other things will certainly fall into that.
That's good.
Okay. Goal number 10, improve resiliency to emergency and disasters. First off, I want to say this is really important, and your EMA team will tell you that our strategic plan, without having the word resiliency in it, was lacking from a federal and a FEMA response standpoint. Because the intent is really to acknowledge that, looking at our disasters, our responses, and how we as a community and a county can be resilient is important. We're in a post-COVID world, and that is one of the key words that resonates out. And when you apply for grant funding or you look at other opportunities, if you want to demonstrate that resiliency is it's a critical objective for the county, inclusion in the strategic plan, I think, helps affirm that. So under that goal, a couple of the action items that were proposed: evaluate our recent disaster response and identify gaps and lessons learned. This is typically in the form of what's called a hot wash. So after the event's done, the dust settles, cleanup is done, people take a breath, then you analyze, what do we do, how do we do it, what worked, what didn't work, what do we need. So that would really be the hot wash. And then the second thing, this is on the the county's philosophy of collaborating with our local partners, provide leadership and educate our local officials. There's training opportunities that come up that would benefit our region, that would benefit our municipal partners and our first responders. And this is really putting in the strategic plan, identifies that as a priority for the county to say we want to find those opportunities. We want to help support our local partners so that they can be better at doing their job, being better at first responders, and more importantly, better at working together when we have something that affects our county on a greater whole. So, any thoughts, concerns, issues with this new goal? All right. Moving into organizational advancement, there are some changes to the goal related to the county website. First off, there was a desire to just reference we want to include more online payment opportunities. We're conducting business virtually. Through the county's COVID response, a lot of those efforts were ramped up from our departments. We had to find ways in which the county can continue to do business without having people needing to come to the building. So the recognition of this is to say we like that and we want to continue to do that. People should not be shouldn't have to come into the county buildings to do business if we can find a better way to leverage technology so they can do so. The county will be embarking on a revamp of the website. So this next change to the bullet point regarding the website and accessible materials will really come into play, and that will be leveraged with that website revamp. I'm going to add in a word, if you don't mind, a desire to ensure people can get their information generally within 3 clicks. Right now, the county website is geared towards that, but sometimes you may have to go 4 or 5 different ways. With the revamp, they're going to look at flow processes and try to find that key information people need and make an efficient path in which they can get it. 3 clicks may not always, it would be the goal, and we'll endeavor to achieve that, but may not be 100%. Auto translate and the ability to accommodate visual impairment, I think, is important to ensure that we are making our information accessible to all those who would want to see it, whether or not English is their primary language, whether or not they have visual impairments. So we want to recognize that those capabilities are important into our website reform. Okay. Another item that came out of our January 12 workshop is just greater transparency with our finances, specifically budget, vendor payments, checks, using some resources that we have in place, starting with D365 and Questica, which is a report writing component, and leveraging other technology that we would have available. It's something that we believe we can do. So I think that the county staff and our finance team are looking at this, and they're working on different ways you can do a dashboard where you, as a resident or your constituent, can drill down and show where the money goes and to whom. So that's included in there. And with that, any thoughts or changes, suggestions, concerns? Okay. Organizational advancement goal number 3. Just want to note there's a lot of the changes here. I want to thank our HR director, Cheryl, for suggesting some of these changes. When this was originally adopted in 2021, these action items were developed but after 2 years, they're not necessarily as practical as they intended to be. So these are just tweaks that aren't changing the intent of what we want to do. This is with respect to recruiting and retaining skilled workforce. But it
Well,
really
it's not
reflects.
biannual, we don't want to do two
You know,
comprehensive studies of our,
What are you guys doing down there?
That was my question, but
we want to keep them working.
so with those aside, I think there's great tweaks, and they reflect really what is more practical without changing the intent of what we want to do for recruitment and retention. 2 additional action items were added. One is with regards to stay interviews. This, if you might recall, maybe Cheryl and Peter talked about the training on stay interviews. It was fascinating training, but it's really a simple tool that as an organization we can adopt and implement to really sit down with your team, with your employees, and say, how are you doing? What do you like about being here? Really not in a performance-related context, not in, you're doing something right, just sitting down with them and just understanding what makes them happy about their job and how can we help. I'm looking forward to taking on that process with my team, and this concept is reflected in the strategic plan because it is an important concept. And it's something that's simple and easy to do, just takes a little bit of time, but what you benefit out of it in the long run, I think, is going to be invaluable. And then another item is job shadowing program for high school students. We have a lot to offer, we have a lot to show, and there's a lot of neat things you can do at the county if you want to work here. And part of it is just to generate that awareness. Say, look, if you want to collect millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue, we can have you job shadow our county treasurer, and she can show you the nuts and bolts of what it looks like to manage the millions of dollars under public stewardship. So there's so many different things we can do. Really, it's just that recognition that we want to open up the doors. We want to show our upcoming workforce what it is we do, and perhaps maybe 1 or 2 of them will say, I want to do that too. You never know. So any thoughts or concerns on goal number 3 regarding recruitment and retention? Okay, we are rolling. New goal that was added under organizational advancement is incentivize advancement through supported training and education. And really, this is the focus of looking at our current employees, part of the retention, and say we want to give them the training opportunities, give them the advancement opportunities. And one of the things that you've already done, you've already taken a step towards this, is look at certain position classifications. I.e., if you have like a Tech 1, 2, and 3. Previously they were 3 separate jobs, but the recognition on the recent resolution that was adopted last month, and something that the county can look at more, is when you have job bands like that, if an employee is at say I'm going to call it Tech 1 for a generic term, and they achieve a certain certification in training and experience, should they stay as a Tech 1 forever, or should they have that opportunity to advance into a Tech 2, which gives them a little more responsibility, a little higher pay, and it gives them something to work towards. And so this action item reflects that idea, that concept. As I mentioned, it's already in play with the county. You've already endorsed it by one change, and we look forward to seeing what other opportunities along this line can be delivered. And then the other item under this is really marketing and promoting a tuition reimbursement program. Cheryl can tell you how much that's been utilized, but it's a benefit for our employees. And with that, we want to make sure that they know it's a benefit, because if they're out there getting education, getting additional training, the county can support that, but then it'll come back and benefit the county organization because they'll have new skills and knowledge that they can apply for the betterment of their job and their department. So any thoughts, changes on goal number 4?
It's super slow, but the agenda is coming up now.
I had to get mine up, yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Goal number 5, cross-pollinate between programs and departments to maximize funding and effectiveness. So this is really under organizational advancement and services, because we're really looking at our organization. Cross-pollinate is really among the departments. So we talked previously about internal and external. This is an internal focus. And when we look at across our different offices, there are areas or potentially areas of overlap, whether it's with a contract, with a vendor, with maybe something that they're doing. And this goal and the associated action item is a recognition to say we should take a look at what we do with each department, and are there opportunities to, maybe avoid some redundancy, or maybe two departments are using the same vendor, and is there a way we consolidate that contract, or is there are other opportunities? First step is we got to identify that, and this is saying that's what we want to do. Additional action items, include more flexibility for state and federal funding. This one is it's a little bit more of a challenge because as a county we can't control the state or federal funding. But I think what we can do is if there's opportunities to look at a funding a program, and maybe there's a pool of money that has a little bit more flexibility, we can pursue that. As a county, you can advocate with your legislators to look at grant programs and not be so rigid in their application, and maybe provide a little bit more gray area, so it gives you more opportunity to engage in programs or services with that the state and federal funding. Any thoughts, concerns, questions, kudos? Okay. All right.
Definitely kudos, a lot of kudos, yeah.
These are
You're fishing.
these are your goals and suggestions. So kudos go on that side of the table.
Yeah, but your wordsmithing and capturing is really good.
Thank you. Environmental sustainability. Let's see. There's under goal number. This is goal number 2, really referring to environmental sustainability. There's 3 objectives under this goal. Goal numbers, or objectives B and C, were commingled in the previous one. They remain commingled. And really that's just a few minor tweaks into the language. In the action items, there's specifically a reference to solar infrastructure. Previously that we just talked about alternative energies generically. Solar, as you know, has in the past couple of years really elevated, and the intent is to elevate that in our examination of alternative energy. And secondly, moving down to the 4th action item, we just want to specify in analyzing utility usage for all county facilities, and then this action item was further developed to say we also want to not only look at, but we want to identify next steps that we can do. We want to give you a plan on what we can do. We can identify our usage and say, here's something that we can do as an opportunity to reduce our carbon footprint, to reduce our energy usage. I would tell you our facilities team is already contemplating this and is looking at the different resources, vendors, consultants out there that can assist with this. So that is already, we're making steps towards that. Any thoughts? All right. Okay. The 3rd goal under environmental sustainability deals specifically with electric vehicles and charging stations. A new action item was added that came out of our your recent sessions, and really it's to say, define the county's role and the county's policy with regards to EV infrastructure, whether it's for our own purposes, such as our fleet, or if it's publicly available. Because right now you don't have a policy. And is it something that the county wants to engage in and looking at and helping to facilitate development of EV infrastructure for public usage across the county? Do you not? So really, step 1 is defining policy. Should, if it's on the county property, should it be free? Should there be a cost associated with it? So what are some of the logistics that go to it? And so I think that was a great addition, because we know they're here and they're coming. We know we're going to be changing out our fleet. But what is the greater discussion, the greater policy? Is that captured correctly? Mm-hmm. All right. Goal number 4 is new, and really focuses on reactivating the drainage districts, and particularly as it relates to future development. McHenry County is growing. That's exciting. For a decade or so, nothing was happening anywhere, but we know growth is happening. But we're also seeing that when you have a field, and that field has historically served a function of draining other properties because of the drain tile system, the drainage districts had oversight and control and knowledge of that field tile system. What happens in that when that field gets developed? So what this goal is intended to do is be a little bit more thoughtful as development occurs, and I think so certainly we want to encourage that development to occur, but let's be mindful of the impact it has on the field tile system. So a couple things that we would do. First off, ensure that your drainage district boards are fully constituted. Make sure that they're active, that there are people appointed to them, that they are engaged. Secondly, conduct a field tile inventory and develop maps. Because
Absolutely.
some people may know where they're at, others don't. And a variety of different resources may be available, whether you can check the recorder's office, see what they have, the drainage districts, and that will help us with that inventory. Yeah, yes.
We talked about a central repository for all that information. Should that be included as part of?
I sort of feel like that's
That's-
Given?
a given,
Yeah.
but
But the
we
three
could
places.
certainly, including a central repository, and it's GIS.
I just, again, people go back to this and mine is, I know, we may be long gone.
Mhm.
So
And-
I know that because they were scattered everywhere, I know that was a big, huge issue. So maybe just stating and ensure that a central repository at a county facility is whatever.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Into a central repository, okay. Pete mentioned GIS would be the perfect vehicle for that. Once they're identified, then we can plot them, and now you have that, they can be available to anybody. So, great suggestion, great addition. Included
And we'll
that.
keep all the historicals, right? Because it's,
The
okay,
paper.
yeah.
And then the two other items, if you have drainage districts that are active, use the term engage. Once again, you can't compel an outside agency to do something, but if you're appointing people to a job, you have a certain oversight to that, and you can say, look, we're gonna put you on this spot, but we want you to be active, we want you to repair your tile system when it needs to be repaired. So you have a little bit of control over this, and that's through your appointment process, ensuring you're appointing the right people to those drainage districts that will get that job done. And then finally, in the event of a development that happens on a piece of open land, part of the development review process should look at this repository of our field drainage system and say, what will be the impact of this development on the field tile system? And are you going to take a piece of it out of commission, and what happens to everything that's upstream, and how is that going to function? So it really just incorporates this into our development review process. Once again, the county can control what it can control. So P&D, they're not in here, can do that. We can suggest our municipal partners do that as well, but that's only a suggestion. Of course, if there's any impact on that stormwater, hopefully their review process and stormwater engineering will take that into account. Okay. Anything further? Okay. The fifth goal under environmental sustainability, this one was modified at your committee of the whole discussion, if you recall, really reflects to the opportunities for local control over solar and wind farms. As you know, there was some legislation that was adopted not too long ago that really took that out of your hands. And in fact, that between January and March, that legislation went into play. So this was tweaked. It's still a goal to say it's important that you have any opportunity to exercise that local control. But how do you do that? You can't control legislation.
On the same item, for those who, P&D met yesterday, they are doubling up on zoning hearings for the next 6 weeks to catch up with how many new solar farms will be coming through in the next few weeks. So they'll have hearings 2 days a week instead of, like once a month, twice a month. So that's how many will be coming through. So you're going to see
It's our vocation.
there will be an awful lot of solar farms in the near future.
So what can you do about it? First off, monitor future legislation and advocate for opportunities to reinstate that local siting control. Your Law Government Liquor Commission monitors the legislation. They have a report every month. So if there's an opportunity in a bill that you can regain some of that control, certainly it's something you want to advocate for. Secondly, when those solar farms and wind farms reach end of life, what happens to them? So is there any opportunity to institute a bond to cover the cost of decommissioning and removing those facilities? That's important, because if the owner could just walk away and then what?
And I apologize because I'm, sliding off track a little bit. Just noting, because of our location and our access to many of those utility lines, we are going to be, McHenry County is going to be bombarded. We already are bombarded with requests for solar. Just as we're talking about legislation, we're going to stand out as being slightly different. Maybe we don't hook our wagon to the same efforts as everybody else just to gain control. Maybe it's any county that has more than blah, whatever blah is, gets to weigh in at some particular level. And then maybe that is where you also incorporate the request for bonding. So just throwing that out as you start to talk to people, we are going to be unique. We're not going to be like every other county in the state. So maybe there's an opportunity to carve something out for us.
And it might not be that, if you said counties over 300,000, obviously you're putting a box around the Mitchell area, where.
I wasn't even thinking about population, Pete. I was thinking about anybody who had solar farms that exceed blank. More than 5, more than X acreage, more than, a little creative that says, because we are going to have a substantial amount of requests, again, because of the location on the utility lines, on their infrastructure. So I'm just thinking that maybe we can carve something out.
The production of
Right, how
solar
much,
farm.
something. Thank you.
Just on that note, following the format of the strategic plan, there's letters after each action item, and that really identifies who was responsible, or generally responsible. CB means county board. And I say it because law, government, liquor is a function of the county board, and as you monitor and advocate for legislation, that would be your function. And CA is county administration, so Alicia is monitoring legislation will be for that committee and for the county board. So it's a partnership, but when you see that, that's your role. If you have that opportunity to come for legislation or a change in legislation, help you take it. Okay. Moving on, economic workforce and development. Key changes in this. And there really aren't much except towards the end. With regards to the Route 23 and I-90 corridor, which will be a substantial economic engine for the county, we all know that. And one of the key concerns has been the timing it takes to get the infrastructure there. The water, sewer, which City Maringo is working on, but your power and your natural gas. There's a long lead time to get that before the site can even be suitable for development. The new action goal, in essence, really says we want to help and assist with the preparation of that infrastructure, whatever that means. We've already been talking to legislators, talking to ComEd, trying to say what can we do to speed this up? What are some of is there anything that we can do on a preliminary basis so we maybe shave off a month or 6 months before they get it? Can we do the design engineering up front? So this action item really focuses on us finding ways that we can assist. Any thoughts on that? Any additions? A new one. This one's exciting. A new goal under economic workforce development really elevates the priority of workforce housing into the county. This is something that's recognized of really supporting our workforce, which is one of our greatest assets in economic development. If we have good people, that our employers can select from for their jobs, we're going to be much more attractive than as an economic development effort. So workforce housing is it should be looked at. So with this, first off, this goal recognizes the importance and priority to the county. A couple of action items. Step 1, create a task force to analyze and study workforce housing needs, availability, and opportunity in the county. So that hopefully that's when the strategic plan is adopted, that hopefully we can get that put together very quickly. Secondly is explore opportunities to reprioritize federal and state funding towards workforce housing programs. Really the thought is, and it's not stated specifically, but as we receive home grants, CDBG funding, is there an opportunity to use that for some workforce housing purposes? I can't answer that right now, but what this action item does is say, let's take a look at that. Anything further, anything to add or to change on this goal? Okay. All right. So we're at the home stretch, just so everybody knows. I know listening to me talk for an hour is not the most pleasant thing, but here we are. Public health.
I know it's
Actually,
long,
health
but
and
it's
social
not been
services.
an hour.
What's that?
I know it's long, but it's not been an hour.
I know.
It's going by fast for Scott.
Thank you. Well, this is good. I'm trying to contain my excitement. So the major change in health and social services really is a recognition of a need for a plan for our elder care and affordable housing. This goal was added. As you can see, action items are still in development. We do not have anything to present to you at this point in time. Those are still being developed. If you have any thoughts or suggestions on something that we can practically and reasonably do, please let us know if there's something that you think that we should be doing. So more to come on that. Just do not have anything to present at this point in time. But as a goal, does that meet what the county board wants to do?
I think so. I mean, we absolutely need to have housing for our aging population.
Okay.
So.
All right. Now the final, quality infrastructure.
Sorry, I just have to ask before we move on. Does the private sector not address that based on demand? Or is there something special about this?
It's a very fair question, and that's why we're still developing, is to see what, how would it interplay between our social service providers, the private sector in the county. Like, what is the role? What can we do in regards to this? And that's why we're still developing this. But that's a very fair question.
I mean, there is an issue. We have our population is aging quickly on us in McHenry County, and there isn't enough. There's a couple issues. One, our taxes are pushing people out of their houses because they can't afford the taxes. The other issue is that we don't actually have enough assisted living or nursing care for the need in the county.
Based on affordability.
Based on affordability, right? We don't have it. We don't have.
Because I know of private developers right now who are developed along this line, and it's dying on the vine because it's not affordable.
You did just assist the city of Woodstock.
We did. I was
That
at
was what was on my
70
mind.
units.
which is why I was so excited about that ARPA proposal, yes.
It's an example of the role we can play.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, just like with workforce housing, we need to have our arms around what the data is in the county so that we can help guide even private and public work together to utilize the limited resources that we have available to us. We have all of these federal dollars, state dollars that we can use, and we give a little here and a little here, and nobody's, we need to better coordinate, and I think that also is stated. Where are we? What do we got? Do we need to bring in private? Do we need to, direct public better? So it's just more of a kind of a data, and then an evaluation of what we need to do.
Along that same lines, I can tell you that it's now 3 years ago, almost, but the town of McHenry went out and did their own study about what housing was available. And at the time they did it, literally it turned out that in terms of available housing, they found, I think it was 19, or maybe it was 17, whatever, places, but 14 of them weren't even available. They had 3 rental units available in their entire town.
Right.
If you were looking in February when they did their study. And it's like, guys, you need some rental housing. It's one thing to find that you're Woodstock and you've got 42% rental housing in your market. When you only have 3 places available in the whole town to rent, I mean, nobody's coming. You've stopped your growth. You maybe didn't plan on stopping it that way, but people need some place to rent, and we don't have any. It's why they're building things in McHenry now, because they did that report and found out how sorely they needed it.
No, I appreciate the discussion. You captured some of those thoughts as we can develop those into action items, but I do appreciate that guidance. Okay. All right. Quality infrastructure, we're at the home stretch. Just on a high level, in the introduction, we talk about quality infrastructure and what it means, and it's not just your transportation system. Quality infrastructure is much more broad in your strategic plan. It includes broadband network, it's going to include different systems. In a previous version of strategic plan, it include county facilities. So it's those physical assets and systems that allow us to do what we need to do, and our businesses as residents do what they need to do. So with that, just wanted to touch on key changes. The first goal really pertains to transportation, contrary to just what I said. There was a proposal to add a new action item under Objective C, which references complete streets, and was an intermodal and multimodal transportation, really thinking of all the users of a street. And the new action item is advocate for multimodal transportation improvements in connection with any significant planned transportation project. So what this is saying is that as DOT becomes aware of plans, whether it's within themselves or maybe on a municipal or state level, is there a way that you could say, what about adding a segment of trail here or doing something that would help provide a multimodal aspect to that road improvement, road construction, maybe additional amenities, whether it's walking trails, bridges, but advocate. Can't make the state do something, but maybe you can encourage them to do it, or they might say if you're willing to pay, and maybe the county would see an opportunity to make an investment or partner with another project to address a multimodal benefit. And then new objective is promote the expansion of transit service in McHenry County. Similarly to the public, the elder care, these action items are in development. I've been working with Scott Hennings and Joe Kropowski. I know Scott has a few suggestions. We weren't able to connect yesterday on this, but these will be more developed. And I look forward to what DOT is going to propose. Some more to come on this. But as far as the objective, does that still meet what the county envisions?
By me.
All right. All right, moving on, and to the very last change. This is goal number 3 in quality infrastructure. Explore ways to expand recreational opportunities for all demographics across the county. And a new action item was proposed, and that's interconnect recreational pathways, bike paths, walking trails, snowmobile, ATV routes to improve recreational opportunities. As we just said in the previous change, if there's an opportunity for an improvement, this is something that maybe the DOT or the county can advocate. But what's unique about this is it brings in snowmobile and ATV routes, which we do have trails through the county. They're not something that's maintained by the county. Usually your snowmobile clubs maintain those during the wintertime. But this, by adding it into your strategic plan, recognizes that it is a means of recreation and something that we want to be mindful of and we want to support. So that's a significant change.
This may be in here someplace else that I haven't seen, but is sorely lacking and very important and year-round, equestrian trails. It is a huge problem in this county. And you might think that one of those would, but no, they're not.
And this actually associates all the way back to our beginning with the identifying opportunities, because there's a lot of equestrian clubs and groups, ATV clubs and groups, who would, with a little bit of incentive, probably go a long way towards these.
Absolutely.
So would that do it?
Thank you.
Kudos.
Yeah, there's a lot of dead trees from mulching.
Good job, Scott.
And here's what's important about your strategic plan. So now it's recognized that that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that gives guidance to your DOT and to your departments to think equestrian trails, think in those terms. So I appreciate that suggestion.
It's a huge part of the county.
All right. That is your...
Are we sending this up to the chain, or do we need to pass a resolution on this, or does this stop here and you're going to do this again?
So actually, there is a resolution accompanying this. If you are if you like the
Can I
changes,
have- no,
you
I'm-
can
I'm
make a
fine.
recommendation.
Can I have
Yes,
a
sir.
motion to approve these changes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
All right, made and second. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. It's not involving money. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We just passed it.
Okay.
No,
well,
it should. No,
Yeah.
it should.
I'm gonna just change the cover page to reflect.
Okay.
If you don't have exposure to it.
That brings us to capital plan update.
Another exciting one.
That's all right. We
Good morning.
know it's getting done.
April showers. They're
Yes,
here.
wow.
So Valley High sewage treatment plant, we're waiting for some dry weather. It looks like we might get that next week. And if so, the company that's based out of upstate New York will be back to finish approximately 2 days worth of work out there. And so that project will theoretically get wrapped up either late April or first week in May. Memory Care Wing out at Valley High, plans and specs are well underway. Designs complete, construction documents are being developed with a goal to be out for bid in later in April and into May, with approvals scheduled to be in June. Building envelope phase 6. We had a pre-construction meeting yesterday with the contractor. We approved, had a resolution before this committee and the county board last month. Went well. We're trying to organize a schedule and a phasing plan that works with contractors' availability of personnel. We hope to get started on that again later this month, if possible, or first week of May.
Is that the end of the whole?
In theory, it is. We're showing a next year phase. There's always going to be more work to do. So whether we, just say we're done and wrap that into another project, which is kind of my tendency right now with it, this really wraps up the major focus of where we began
Right.
and where we're ending.
That's what I'm asking. Thanks, thank you.
McDOT's got 2 roofing projects underway, one of which we're mobilized. We have a contractor on site, materials are there. That is for the office roof. The salt dome materials and schedule has not yet been finalized. We are in our persistent questioning mode right now, trying to get some buy-in from the contractor to actually get us on the schedule. Gel chiller replacement, we have a resolution here. That project in itself will help continue our track downward on greenhouse gas emissions. Annually, that project went our greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 35 vehicles, 31 homes. So vehicles are really a big contributor. We look at that compared, they're right there they're actually a little, right there with a house as far as what they contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. So that'd be an annual reduction right there of significant cost impact. We're estimating about $8,000 or $9,000 a year reduction in electrical use with this chiller over what we currently have in place. Joint training facility Cary, that work is now moving. It was stalled while we're working through some details with the village of Cary. So interior demolition is complete and interior mechanical work has begun prior to framing, et cetera. That project now, it's about 5 weeks from when the contractor initially felt that they would be ready to go. So it's looking like early October, which works for the sheriff as far as their training schedule goes. The firearm training facility likewise is behind. Again, it's delays in engineering based on comments from the village of Cary. So that's been back and forth, expected within 2 weeks for those to be fully resolved, and then dirt work, site development can begin, which really we haven't had great weather for anyways to date. Things are ground's thawed, could have gotten maybe mobilized, but really getting going, we need some dry ground, and that should be coming shortly. Other projects in queue, We have an agreement with Walker Consultants, which will help us finalize, take the information we know about our sites, what we know about power distribution currently around our various campuses, and come up with potential A, B, and C grade locations for EV charging, weighing them on how convenient it is for our clients, the departments that may be using the fleet, and then versus how convenient it is to get power to them based on the capacity at an individual building or utility location. So that's kind of a high-level report that we hope to have in June, possibly July. It just kind of says, here's all our campuses, this is what we have, this is where we think we have some great opportunity. Obviously, that's going to change when more people provide input, but I think it'll be a great stepping stone to get that project and those kinds of decisions being made. Likewise with greenhouse gas inventory, we will have a baseline beginning this year that looks back 1 year and says, this is our inventory, this is what we produce on scopes 1 and 2. There's 3 scopes in this greenhouse gas business. The third scope, we're intentionally not addressing. It's basically, it's more designed for manufacturing. Where are you getting your raw materials? Where are they being warehoused? Where are you bringing them in? How are you distributing them? What do they contain, et cetera, et cetera. We don't really do that kind of business. So scopes 1 and 2 are basically, where are you getting your power from today? What are you generating on site? What are your opportunities to lower your emissions? Which often the opportunities to lower emissions don't come with cost savings. They come with cost increases. So that's kind of my want to just make you aware that some areas, yes, we get some cost savings. We're replacing equipment with new equipment. We're spending a little bit more than we need. We can get that to balance and actually pay. When we start, I probably won't. I may not be above ground when this happens, but when we further down with the electrification of our assets, replacing 4 million BTU boilers with electric powered boilers, it'll just be an expensive endeavor, and we'll be mindful of that here. We ride that cost line very closely. It's important to us, but yet we know it's important for us to be able to have these discussions. That's what we're working on.
I have 2 questions and they're not
Sure.
all related.
Okay.
So the first one
If I can
was, when are the bids due for the Valley High Memory Care?
I don't have the schedule we outlined in front of me. It's going to be in time to have it returned, I think 10 days ahead of the Valley High Operating Board first meeting in June.
In June, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other question was, when you're finding opportunities in the county for electric charging stations, I know we only have say over our own property, but this is a time when we can talk to our partners and look at our partners and also seeing that there's, so are you looking to them to also see where their locations are, to see if there's any kind of, collaboration for discussion.
About municipal partners?
Well, but like we also have like, at one point, during the strategic meeting plan, it got real quiet and I loudly announced to Peter, I know about charging, because I was talking about putting stuff trying to get conservation district to put stuff up. And now we're not gonna use that.
Right.
But like, we have a lot of
They are
stuff.
talking- yeah, and
We
they
have
are
a lot
talking
of
about that.
of things in the county
Sites.
that aren't us, but are really closely aligned with us.
But
And
it
they're
depends on
gonna
how
move.
close the utility supply is to that, because it's sucking
Right.
a lot of energy.
And that's a challenge that conservation district sites are gonna have.
Right, but I mean, like, we also, there's,
They're not gonna embrace us, I don't believe so.
So there's municipal partners, there's there's township
Anybody?
spots,
Sure.
there's trying to think, buildings that aren't actually our buildings, but our partners end up using, right? And so there might be a strategic location, I don't know.
Sure.
Right, I mean, it's a lot, it's a big project. Look at the whole conversation in, yes.
So Teresa, this first step in
Yes.
is really limited to our fleet
Yeah.
on our properties.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at, and
Yeah.
with that, we'll come up with some knowledge that if the county board decides, oh, well, we'd like to provide EVs for the public, and those come with a whole set of questions.
Right, yeah.
Question Scott raised.
Regarding that,
Yeah.
correct. We'll have a better information for you to help make those decisions from.
Going back to again what I said earlier, it's all about collecting data.
Right.
Because why would we do it if the city of Crystal Lake's gonna have them available, because they're gonna do it too. So we need to know what other communities and other, private entities are doing, because then, our engagement might be more limited. That's, so
Right.
a lot of that again is just data.
Well, also too, in other states, the charging stations have been provided with partnerships between like Myers
Right.
and,
Yeah,
it's
right,
all
right.
private.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
many of them in other,
I mean, if they want to sell them, they're going to be doing things like that.
businesses
so
have an
why-
interest in attracting people with,
It's like, why would the
Electric
county be
vehicles to go.
building gas stations?
right.
Why
right.
would we be in that business? So,
Correct, yeah, I'm not here to advocate for us
Yeah.
being in the
Charging
charging
business.
business outside of our fleet.
Right.
And those other decisions are
That building?
yours to make.
I can't remember it was dark, so I didn't see. We're discussing, did we see what at Algonquin Township, but we were,
I think there's a charging
Man, I was
station
just
after
at
the
Township.
I think there may be.
Yeah, we were both there, and I thought I saw one.
yeah. No, but I was thinking, right, I've been thinking a lot since I had got an electric vehicle over a year ago. Like,
Oh.
I don't see anything in the county where I could do supercharge. Of course, I haven't tried very hard in the county because my house is a fine spot to charge.
Pete
But-
knows where they're at.
I'm not aware of any full-on superchargers in the county.
Right, I don't know,
Around the county
yeah.
line has one, but they put, the private industry is putting those near interstates, pretty much. I mean, it's.
The Arboretum has one.
And that's going to be a struggle as we step in, because the technology will continue to evolve regarding.
When Scott gets 2390 built, I bet you there'll be one. Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Come on, Scott. When you're
I won't forget anymore from our
It's
admin
tough to
meeting
get a
about
electric
achieving
wire
goals.
until that charging
But
station.
yes, my thought of finding a way to attract the public sector to put charging stations, superchargers in McHenry County will draw tourism to McHenry County. So,
Going back to the strategic plan,
Yeah.
to defining the policy, what is the county's
Yeah.
role as it relates to this? And this is a great conversation.
A good example.
Yeah,
I need data.
all right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm writing
MCC
it
HR.
down. Always about data.
Gosh, yeah,
So-
yeah.
So I have a whole list of things. One of the things that you asked for, I think it was Teresa, was a quarterly vacancy report. So the last time I gave this to you was in October, so it's been a little more than a quarter, but here it is. What you see there are 90-some, 90, is it 90? 108.
Yeah.
Currently, there are 108 vacant positions. In the very right-hand corner, you'll see that some of those were in the interviewing stage, some of them were actively recruiting. Some of them, there's nothing really happening with them. I do need to say, and I put them in order by how long they've been vacant. So at the back side, I think it's interesting. And again, our policy right now is if positions are vacant, I think at one time it was like 90 days or more that it needed to come to this committee.
If we're not actively trying to fill them,
Yeah.
we want to understand why that position is just being allowed to lay dormant.
Yeah, so we have, again, the correctional officers, I know that's kind of a position that's may come up in the budget this year. The ICE contract is down. These are vacant positions they're not filling, so I think we'll hear more about that come budget time. So some of those in the orange are correctional officers.
But that fits the example of a vacant position, been dormant for a while, but we know what's going on.
Yeah.
We're not gonna
Yeah.
call it. And there's other dormant positions that we know what's going on. and
Yeah.
We're allowing them to remain dormant. But others, if you're not talking with Cheryl about why you're not trying to fill a position, or myself, then we wanna know what's going on.
Yeah. So Valley High has a significant number of positions that have been open for a while, but again, theirs is based on number of residents. And so as soon as their population comes up, they're gonna need those positions to serve that population. So, yeah. So I don't know if you have any questions. I don't know if I would have answers for you at this time. Yes?
Do we feel now that the salary levels are comparable or at least competitive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I do not believe it's about salary.
Is it about length of time to get to a job?
It takes much longer to find people now, yes. And again, a lot of this on the back page, they're kind of on hold. Again, the corrections officers and a lot of the Valley High, that stuff is kind of on hold. There are
That's
a couple.
management of budget, I would say, right? I mean, somewhat, there's not a
Could
whole
be.
population there, so, you know.
No, for Valley High though, it's interconnected. It's, we
That's
don't
true.
hire
You're right.
because there's not.
Right, if you don't hire, you don't.
population.
you
But
don't-
we also don't take people because we don't have employees. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
actually like interconnected.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
at one point, it's a very high concern that is discussed.
Well stated.
Yes.
Yeah. So I do not believe it's because of salary. Very rarely, I mean, every once in a while, Pete and I will have a department come and say, we want to hire at a higher level. And we seriously talk about it. We look at their experience and their education, and we make a determination. I don't think we've lost anybody because we've not been able to.
No, but we, Cheryl and I had a good conversation with Leonetta in the last few days and agreed to move up a little bit nearer the midpoint, and at the end of the day, it wasn't about salary. That person wanted a little bit different experience, but we gave Leo the room that she needed on the salary.
Yeah. So I don't believe salary is currently the issue, and it was. It really was.
Everybody I talk to is having difficulty finding people.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
I mean, you know, the comment, we're pulling people off the streets is one I hear every day.
Yeah.
So, would it be correct, if you look at our, workforce data right now, we're below the state and national level in unemployment, which, I mean, very low unemployment rate, so there aren't a lot of people looking.
Searching.
And then people who are, because of childcare issues or elder care issues, or, oh my gosh, they want to work virtual. It's a big thing right now, not wanting to even drive 15 to 30 minutes for a job. What are the other things? I mean, the money flow has stopped somewhat, paying people not to work. That stopped in September, but that rush into the labor market, I'll put that loosely, has dissipated.
Yep.
Tax returns are coming out. That's going to delay people from looking. Summer break, that's going to delay people because of childcare again.
I think summer break is also a time when people who are getting ready to finish school, whether it's high school or a junior college or a university, are going to be searching though too. So I
True.
think that one might balance out.
Yeah, true. But am I overstating it? Am I, is that what you're
The market
experiencing?
is so slim right now of available people, and that's why we are having to go out and search for people.
Mhm.
It's a very different market,
I
and
mean, I'm surprised to see annualized jobs that are less than 40,000, even for a contract worker. It's terrible,
Mhm.
because people just won't, they're not motivated to enter. So, okay. And then if they've been open for so long, do they need to be filled? I mean, these are real things that need to be filled. Are we finding other ways to get the work done for real, or are we just overloading existing staff?
there's some stress. Their employees are reporting overloads. Those who are leaving saying my workload was just too much,
Yeah.
which means that the next people are getting their work and everybody else's work. So workloads are very heavy.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else that, do you want me to do more with this than what you've got? Is this sufficient?
That's great.
Well, I actually like to see it.
Yeah.
I hadn't, I don't know that we need to do more with it, but I don't mind keeping it up to date,
Have it more often than quarterly?
Quarterly is
Quarterly's
fine.
good.
Quarterly's fine.
I want you to spend your time, yeah.
This
Quarterly.
But we've now got it programmed into Chronos, so it's pretty easy to crank out.
Quarterly's good.
Yeah.
So, okay, good. All right, so the other things that I just want to kind of give you some insight into is coming up the first week in May, first full week in May, which is the 8th through the 12th, is National Employee Appreciation Week. And we do something every year during that week. And it's just, in addition to what should be happening all year long, but it's kind of an icing on the cake. And hopefully, some of the departments have built some cakes and it's not just fluffy icing, because then employees, like, yeah, great, you gave me a lanyard and a hot dog. You know?
Yeah. Keep the lanyard, I'll take the hot dog.
So we've been talking to the departments about those meaningful conversations and really during the year finding out what do employees really want and need here. What environment issues are they experiencing? How do we address those if we can? So those conversations are really important. But this icing, because hopefully we're building the cake underneath, is something that's happening that first full week, the 8th through the 12th. The 11th, that Thursday, will be an employee picnic like we had last year. Employees really liked it. So it's a time where you may want to come and eat with people or help serve hot dogs or.
It's after the May cow meeting.
Oh, May?
Yeah.
I'll put it on my calendar
It'll
now,
be like
so I
11
don't
to
double
1.
schedule.
I would definitely serve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'll
fun.
serve.
I don't want to sit and eat out,
Hopefully
but I'll
it's
serve.
arranged.
Use the 12.
Okay. No one would eat.
Was that May?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's coming up. I talked a little bit about the wellness program and its growth. So, again, we don't have the staff to do 20 different wellness programs, we just don't. So what the wellness committee, which is made up of representatives from different departments, has done is they've created a grant program. So departments can say, we'll do the planning, we've got this many people who are interested, but we need this in order for it to go forward. So the first grant award that the committee did was, the state's attorney's office has been doing a yoga class for a while now. They already have someone who's instructing, but what they don't have are the yoga blocks or the pads or the straps that could advance their current class. So the wellness program purchased those supplies for them to advance their yoga class that they already have. There's several other departments who are beginning to submit saying, we over here would like to support this kind of program. So those grants are starting to come in, and it's the staff at the state's attorney's office are doing it. It's not our staff having to organize that event and making it happen. They've already got a yoga class provided. So it's giving some local control over what kind of programming different groups of employees want and need. What we used to get is we would provide a yoga class here, and people would say, why do you always do it over at the admin building? Why do you always do it at 4:30? Why do you always, so it's like, okay, well then what do you want? And do it, and we'll support
It's
it.
camaraderie though within that unit.
Yes.
You know, yeah, so.
And they can
there's,
open it to
yeah,
other people
intangible-
also. So that's kind of a new angle that we're supporting wellness programming in that way. I wanted to let you know that our spring employee survey is in draft form. We're getting ready to push that out. It goes out every year, which is really about the work environment and benefits in the spring, so that we're getting ready to do. There is a kind of a base high school curriculum that's been developed and been presented to Diana Hartman, our regional superintendent of schools. She's getting ready to let the high schools know that we have a program that will be available in the fall. What that's really going to look like, who's going to present it, what the final format is to be determined. But it's already initiated so that it can be used by the schools next year in the fall.
Plans
So,
for, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
And by program, I think what shows me is like 2 50-minute classes.
yes.
This is, did you ever think about working for the county when you graduate? Here's all
Yeah.
the things, all the different opportunities that we have.
Yeah. I gave you the vacancy report. April is volunteer month. The county does support and encourage employees to do 4 hours of volunteering while on the clock. So we've got a couple of programs that they can do. One of them that we've got lined up, so we used to do it through United Way. The old United Way president was very active with us. She helped us hook into United Way programs. We would send out staff, they would do the volunteer work. We're struggling a little bit, they've got a new president there, so we've decided that we need to move forward. So we've already contacted Home of the Sparrow. They have a house that's being emptied and needs to be prepared for the next tenants to move in, so they're asking if we could, supply, they'll have paint and tarps and everything, but can we send some teams of people over there to help them paint this house and get it ready for occupancy? So we're gonna volunteer painting. We've been working with Mike Iwanaki, trying to pin down a veterans-related service project. So there will be volunteer projects available. Again, employees can do 4 hours on the clock. So that'll be coming up. It's not just gonna be in April, because that's not a good month for some people, so there'll be other opportunities throughout the year. And it might just be a group of 4. It might be a whole department, depending on what the project is and what touches them, but we do support some volunteer work. Yes.
Can I suggest you also reach out to the Conservation District?
Mhm.
We have lots of opportunities for volunteerism, small groups, big groups, and that obviously gives
Is it cutting buckthorn?
Yes. I don't know that at home already. I would tell you, but again, for events, I mean, if people want, we need people for the bear trails, things of that. I mean, buckthorn's not always the funnest thing.
Don't always clean all these trails up. Now that the snow's melted, there's gonna be a lot of trail cleanup.
There is, and
Okay.
again, I just see the
If you
synergy,
have
that's mine.
If you have a contact person, that would be great, otherwise we'll just call them.
I
Yeah.
call Shauna Flavel, I never say her name right, or Elizabeth directly,
Okay, we will.
yeah.
I also know the local Rotary, Fox River Grove Caring Rotary Club is doing a mass planting of some of the parks and stuff and planting, and they're just like little bulb and flower planting. They were
Mhm.
looking for volunteers too.
And
And that's in
cleanup
April,
along
I
the
believe,
Fox.
also.
Fox Waterway's doing the big cleanup along the Fox, kind of
Oh,
along
yeah.
junction. I mean, there's a zillion, if you sit me down for 5 minutes, I'll give you a list of 20.
Okay, all right.
Well, I was trying to think of something that people would enjoy doing too.
Well, me too.
Yeah, okay.
Well, like
Again,
the staff do the
if you
stuff.
know of not-for-profit organizations who are looking for assistance on some kind of project that's gonna help in the community, please send that to me, and we'll get it onto our list and we'll coordinate it. I'd really appreciate that. So volunteering. So we had Nationwide in, we had quite a few employees go through that, have some sessions. We had some people roll over their benefits, we had some new enrollees, so that was good. We'd kind of gone into a slump of people participating in Nationwide, but it kind of popped up again, that was good. We're getting ready to bring in IMRF. We've not had them come in to do a presentation in a while. So they're coming in, they're doing, I think, 3 pre-retirement workshops. I think they're only like 30,
15-minute sessions.
Yeah.
Personal one-on-ones.
and then the personal one-on-one. So there's the workshops that are about 30 minutes, and then that you can set up a one-on-one meeting with them also to talk about your specific situation.
I'm not gonna, I don't want you to respond, but I'm watching with great interest how more and more businesses are also offering personal finance assistance. Wondering if that's on your tickler for later on, but.
This is Personal Finance Month.
Yeah, and I maybe that's why I'm seeing it. I just
Yeah.
over and over and over again, and the investment, and I know that they're doing a lot in Springfield to require that schools start that earlier, because that obviously people handling their own money is an issue, if you know.
Our EAP has some resources there.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just did
I'm-
nationwide, we're doing IMRF, I think Donna just stepped out, Donna's having me come in and talk to her staff about savings opportunities, so even though we haven't labeled it, we are.
That's,
Yeah. Financial
I
wellness.
trust you implicitly.
That's part of that wellness thing. There's something that I want to, and I don't know when and where we would do this, but right now, Pete, I haven't talked to you about this one yet. Right now, our pay scales are based on 30 years of service with the county. It's gonna take you 30 years to get to the top if you started at the bottom.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
That's
Yeah.
a long time. That's a really long time to get to the top of a pay scale. So at some point I think we need to reconsider. Is it really a 30-year scale, or is it a 25? Or is it a 20? So I just want to put that out there.
What's the average now in government? Are all of them 30-year?
I don't know.
I don't think you can generalize. I mean, half of our organization is unionized, and a good chunk of that.
And they're on a
have-
15-year
have-
scale.
Okay, that's even a
they
better
have steps
comparison.
that
Yeah.
Cheryl and I have talked to, we've taken some steps to accelerate people on the bottom half of the wage scale to the midpoint, and kind of decelerate after the midpoint, but. happy to
Still a
look at-
30-year scale.
I think that's a viable, again, data, I'd be
Yeah.
real curious, you're right. The union comparison is important,
Yeah.
and just again, surrounding areas, what they're doing.
When the union has a
And then you
15
can
step scale.
reevaluate with something and not just in a void.
Okay, so I don't know, do I bring that back here for further discussion? Okay. So that's something that's, I think we need to look at. And then the final thing that I just want to say is, we have two members of this committee who have volunteered to be part of this brainstorming work group. And I think that's great. I think it's going to be great for employees to see that the county board is interested in recruitment and retention. I just hope you guys don't overpower them.
Oh.
I don't want you to make them afraid to speak up. So-
Me?
Oh my God. Yeah, so anyway, I think it's gonna be great because we've got county board all the way down to, a lower level clerk. But everybody's gonna have ideas about what can we do differently than we're doing now with recruitment and retention. And I really want it to be a really dynamic brainstorming session. But brainstorming, we always have to be realistic. Can we afford it? Can we do it? Do we have the staff to do it? How are we gonna do it? So I really look forward to those, and I thank you for your volunteering to be part of that group. We've got about 20 people now, and I'm excited. So that's what I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Communications.
All right. You should have in your email boxes.
Yes, I just got it, yep.
Excellent.
There she is.
All right, so you have the written version of my report, but let's just get right into it. So, strategic plan. We are doing a communication strategic plan, and when I say we, I mean your communications officers across the various elected offices and departments. We're almost done. We have to get a few more supervisor sign-offs, and I anticipate that you'll have a plan for your review coming up at your next meeting. Very excited about that. I think it'll be great going forward. Collaboration's another great thing that I would like to talk with you about. So I just had a wonderful meeting with our county treasurer. We had an awesome planning meeting for a 3-tiered multimedia campaign regarding tax bills. So that, I'm super excited for that. And we've got follow-up meetings going forward.
That's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of, a lot of great news there, but more to come. I was also honored to have the opportunity to be a fly on the wall at DuPage County's monthly or quarterly, sorry, I think actually we spoke there was quarterly, meeting for their county and their municipal communicators. They have a opportunity for their communicators to be educated together and to discuss and network and find different ways that they can work together. So I thought that was the most wonderful thing to observe, and I also happened to be there on the day that they were having a training put on by their state's attorney, or one of their assistant state's attorneys regarding First Amendment issues. And it was very well done, and I approached our state's attorney, our assistant state's attorney, and I asked for a similar presentation so that we could do something internally here for the county, but also offer it to our local municipal partners if they would be interested. Norm said yes, which was wonderful, and Shaylin has already discovered that there is interest in the municipality, so we're hoping going forward that we could have an opportunity to train together, get to know each other, and work together more closely going forward. So more to come on that. That'll be in early June. We also have another joint communications campaign that's going to go on with the Conservation District and Chairman Beeler. So it'll coincide on Earth Day, but I don't want to give away too much of the thunder there, so more to come on that.
The teaser.
It's a teaser. Speaking of teasers, well, I won't go out of order, but speaking of teasers, as you all know, we have the weekly Resume McHenry County newsletter. It was put together because we needed to find ways to educate the community on what was going on with COVID, what resources were out there for businesses, and different ways that the community was coming back after the restrictions. But we're many years out now. Executive orders are being lifted in May, and it's time for a refresh. It's time for a rebrand. Yet at the same time, we have a newsletter that is well received, opened, interacted with, and appreciated by the community. So we are contemplating a rebrand. Something I'm teasing here, because we don't have a design logo yet. We have a concept, and I don't want to get too much, but it's going to go along with Resume. And the next wave that we did you all did as a county board, Advance, because we advanced the community through thoughtful and impactful investments in the community. And the next tier is going to be the latest iteration. So again, more to come on that. It's going to be really cool. I'm starting to get buy-in. It's going to tie in with some other partners that we have, and more to come. I know, aren't I, Tease? Anyhow, communications of note. We were very pleased to work with the Emergency Management Agency to push out social media posts on the tornado warnings last weekend. It was very well received, and it all came from the National Weather Service. So very good to do that, and the community appreciated it, and it really showed into the engagement and reach of those posts. It was great. Finally, follower growth and reach. Yes, we are still growing. That's wonderful. 95 new followers on Facebook, 14 on Instagram, 7 on Twitter. Twitter had a rough month for a variety of reasons, but we lost a whole bunch of followers in the beginning of the month and then gained them all back with the tornadoes. So, the tornado warnings, so go figure. But, and LinkedIn increased as well. Facebook was a little weird because last month we had the largest post we've ever had, well over 50,000 reach. So it kind of messes with the metrics. It's kind of a bit of an outlier, but.
What was that post that was so?
Oh gosh, what was it? I'm blanking on it. It was shared by Star 105. Sorry, I reported on it the last month.
You did, yeah. No, I remember you said. Now you said that.
It'll come to me in the middle of the night. I'm sorry.
Yes, no,
I didn't have enough coffee.
I could also just go to the last meeting and fast forward to your communication.
It'll come in.
Yes.
It'll come back.
No, you did. I remember you did talk about it last month.
Yeah. But anyhow, bottom line is we're doing well. LinkedIn's LinkedIn could use a little bit of love, going forward. So feel free to give us a little love on LinkedIn if you have accounts for that. And yeah, that's what I've got for today. And this is really going to bother me if I don't look this up.
You'll find it.
All right. Any
Said
questions
about
on
2 o'clock this
communications
morning.
campaigns going forward? Nope. All right, I'm gonna get it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Ready? Okay. I want to touch on my own self-evaluation last, but a few other things first. I met with all of your appointed department heads, and many of them in the last couple of weeks, going over their quarterly reviews, and it's always a good process. And checking in on their work plans. One of the takeaways I had is my discussion with Nicole Gattuso in GIS is as we talked about in her budget process last year with this group, we are going to need to take a look at the GIS fees. We are seeing an acceleration in costs in GIS software, and we're seeing a decline in the refinancing, as you can imagine. So GIS numbers aren't keeping up with expenses. We haven't touched the GIS fees in about 4 years, so it's due. So we're going to get under that. I think she's working with Adam right away in terms of getting it on an RFP. You have to do a third-party study to adjust your GIS fees, but all of our important GIS operations, every bit of it, is paid for by these fees. And this is, I think it's $23 or $24 right now on a recording. So when you buy a home, part of your 30-year mortgage is that $23, but that's what pays for our GIS operations, and that goes into all the municipalities as well. We'll be bringing that forward in the coming months. Cheryl mentioned April is volunteer month. Kathy is very pleased to announce that our liquor license process is now completely online, right? Yes. If our applicants want to be, so that was a good step. She and Greg get some credit for that.
Strategic plan goals? Check.
We talked a little bit about EVs already, and Tom Burrows has left, but we do have a study now underway with a third party to look at all, I think 8 of our facilities in terms of what would be necessary to get the required electric load into those facilities to do EVs, because just because you want it doesn't mean you're ready to do it, and these take a lot of engineering to get that going. So we're working on that. Cheryl mentioned her high school intro program. Another interesting thing that we're going to be looking at in the coming weeks, with all the body cameras that are in place now and that will be in place over the next 2 years, because there's a lot of smaller police departments that still don't have body cameras. There's a real financial burden and just technology burden of all the data that these body cams create. It seems like a really ripe opportunity for some joint purchasing and some sharing of contracts. Shaylin and I are going to meet with Sheriff Tatelman and Sandra, I think on the 21st of this month is what we're targeting, and our contractor and our vendor to see what our contract looks like, how it could be opened up, expanded, tweaked to add in hybrid, or whatever that is,
right.
When they are ready. There's just a lot of things that make sense here in sharing the cost, sharing the data access. If the state's attorney is going to prosecute for all these folks, they need to have quick access to this stuff too. So we're going to try and cast ourselves as a pilot program. This is we're not unique, but I think we are unique in that how well we work with all our municipalities and our sheriffs and our state's attorneys. So we're going to try and push ourselves there. So more to come on that. I look forward to talking about that. Our finance division is officially out of county administration now. That move, the migration finished last week. The Drug-Free Coalition, Laura Crane had space in our office. She'll be out towards the end of April as well. So we're going to be kind of retooling things here, and we're going to have workspace for county board members.
Oh my God.
Moving forward, we're going to have at least a couple cubes designated for county board members. I know Teresa, you like to work here. And
Sometimes, yeah.
So we'll have space for folks here shortly. 2 other things, finally. Yesterday, Congressman Brad Schneider came over and visited for about an hour with Chairman Bueller and I and Shaylin and Alicia. It was really nice visit. I hadn't met him before.
He's a great guy. Yeah. I really like him.
Yeah,
I do.
He met in the afternoon with several members of our ag community. I think Tracy Von Bergen was part of that meeting, and Dan Volkers, and then came and visited with us. So it was nice to talk about what our priorities are and get to know him a little bit. And then finally, I want to mention that at your COW meeting a week from tomorrow, as we referenced the tax cycle, Alex Pineda is our deputy assessor, Bob's right-hand man, Bob Ross, is going to do his presentation again on the assessment process. It's about a 25-minute process, but I know that we've got half of the board is new and hasn't seen this presentation. It's really slick, and Chairman Bueller wanted to make sure everybody saw it again before tax bills go out in the mail.
So since this is the quadrennial reassessment year, folks, you're all going to get reassessed if you own any land.
So Alex will be doing that presentation. And then finally, I did kind of kick off the evaluation process for the county administrator. Yesterday Monday, I emailed this document out. I'd like to try and tie this to the anniversary of my employment agreement, and that is May 1st. Talked some with Chairman Gottemoller, and this is just my recap of the goals that were set a summer ago, and kind of the progress we've made on them. I don't really want to go through all that unless there's questions. I did then start to think about what might be new goals, and that's on the last page. And honestly, a lot of these things repeat because of some of these projects are kind of multi-year in nature. But the last 4 goals I put on there are newer. And the fourth from the bottom, and Member Altoff, this will be familiar to you because you're trying to think about some of the resources that we do allocate, through the Mental Health Board, through CDHG, through Senior Services. These dollars are all very limited and been eroded by inflation over recent years, right? So, when we know these resources are so finite and limited, what steps are we taking to make sure that they are best going towards the priorities of the county board? Because that's kind of the step. I'm not, if there's an opportunity to grow these a little bit, maybe we can, but understanding that they're not going to grow substantially. So how are we going to best use those limited resources towards the goals of your strategic plan and towards the goals of the county board, and not simply those that are asking for the dollars? And hopefully there's a nexus, but there isn't always going to be a nexus. So I want to spend some time with staff and our leadership in trying to work on that in the next 12 months.
And we have to start with data first. I'm just going to look,
Right.
kind of sort of, what's the baseline right now? Right, where are we? And then to go from there, what have we done? Give you a little bit of historical perspective and then create something moving forward.
So the third to the bottom, looking at our county population, this is not a big goal, but it is something I want to put down because I want us to work on. Almost my entire career here, we call ourselves a stagnant county in terms of population growth. And it's pretty much been true, right? It's just been 15 years of. But what we can all visually see a whole lot of homes being built in the last 2 summers, right? Between Wonder Lake and Crystal Lake and Algonquin and Huntley, there's been a lot of homes go up. Is that corresponding to a population growth? A lot of it occurred right after the census, and I just don't know the answer to that. If it's true that we are in fact growing a little bit, I'd love to kind of change the narrative on us that we are stagnant, but I don't know that for sure yet. I met on Friday of last week with 3 staff from CMAP, their deputy director and a couple of their statisticians, and Scott Hennings, and Lisa, you were on that call, yeah. And so we're kind of challenging them to help us, come up with a tool to measure our census right now, mid-year, mid-census, and measuring all the data points that we know about housing starts and making some estimations. And just a new home doesn't necessarily mean new population. And I use myself as an example. 4 years ago there was 4 people in my house, and now there's 2. Or 5 years ago. So things change, but I don't know. So I want our county, again, I'll cast ourselves as a pilot with CMAP. And we're actually maybe going to even mention this tonight at the CMAP meeting. But we might be putting out kind of a smaller census from CMAP to our municipalities and looking at housing starts. So something on there.
Be interesting to look at school enrollment too,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
My youngest graduated 21, the smallest class at South in 9 years.
Right.
Right? So that.
That's what I mean.
Where are these? Yeah. I know.
Well, and then related to that, what I wonder is, you hear everything about Illinois losing 100,000 people a year. So if in fact we are growing and not stagnant, then how are we in relationship to the rest of the counties or the collar counties? Are we an exception to what's going on in Illinois? And then why? I would also be curious about jobs. Are we less of a bedroom community than we have been in the past? And then I'm just throwing out things. What is the impact of those who have, like Rabine's gone now for 6 months and 1 day, but still has property and home and presence here. So then how is that counted on the census? Is half of you in Florida and half of you here? you know, things like that. And then also too, if what you're saying, like housing has increased, but the population per house is decreased, then the impact on traffic, or if people are here for 6 months and then it's also tourist season and they're back for the Midwest summers, you know, then what, there's just a lot of implications. It's a really good question, and I think really multifaceted.
I don't think it takes a statistician to figure that the reality of people not needing to go to downtown every day, right? Maybe you only need to go once or twice. That is allowing more people to live in Huntley.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the things we're seeing.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, working from home. So, anyway, it's going to be an interesting thing. I'd like to look at a little bit more. We had in our strategic plan, and it's on. I'd like to put it on my work plan, and it's on Carrie Weiss's work plan. But you know, continue to look at ways we can do financial reports for the county board. You know, be they online or not. We're going to talk a little bit more with finance committee, and Carrie's going to have a debut of a new report in May. And then something that's going to be really important for us. We're all getting ready to celebrate the opening of the joint training facility. We're looking at a groundbreaking of the new shooting range on April 26th, although that hasn't been officially announced yet. But you know, these are two facilities that are going to benefit us all in the county, but it shouldn't be all on the back of the county, you know, to support these things. So we need to figure out some ways to allocate the expenses and not just the resource. So I'll be working with Rob and his team on that. And similarly with the public safety social worker, we came up with a very simple equation for how to distribute those costs for the public safety social workers, which have been a resounding success. But for the first 2 years, it was just pretty much how big is your municipality. We have new tools now in terms of measuring who's using the services and how successful those uses are and how many callbacks there are. You know, do we want to use some of those tools to, you know, distribute the cost of the program as we not this year, because the second year of the program kicks off in May, but as we move towards the third year of that program, you know, how do we want to best distribute the cost of the program? So that, I want to get that on my list also.
And maybe it's a combination thereof.
Yeah, absolutely.
Usage as well as population,
Right.
just, yeah. Because again, where you have your social service providers, you may have more calls, and that's not quite balanced either, right? So, just.
So the other piece of this, we just passed out. This is a survey evaluation that was done online and shared with the board. I think it was last one.
It was last time, yes.
It was
Yeah,
last
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's big. Even I didn't remember how many questions were on here. In talking with Chairman Gardner, I'd like to get something in the hands of the board in the next several weeks. I don't know if we want something this big or not. Honestly, what's most important to me, I mean, I want reaction from how the county administrator and the staff are serving the county board. I want to hear that, but I also want to get some new goals. You know, so are there some other things that aren't on this list? You know, I know that, you know, if every county board member could give me one thing that you want county administration to do next year, that'd be really cool. You know, and we can kind of fold some of those things in there as well.
So Pete and I talked a little bit about this. We do have 9 new board members, so they haven't seen this before. I don't necessarily think we need 36 questions to go to everybody. That's just overwhelming. But I know that Pete at least would like to see question 37 repeated.
Yep.
You know, what are the 3 things you want to see me do? And so what I would like, at least from board members here from this committee, take a look at this thing. I don't expect to do this in the next 3 minutes because I know you only got this handed to you now. But give us some feedback as to what questions you'd like to see repeated, even if you just want to send me an email that says, or send staff an email saying, hey, include questions 1, 7, and 9, or whatever it is. But I'd like the board members, the board, to get another chance to weigh in on what's going on. Again, partly because we have 9 new board members who've never been involved in any of this before. And it does help to give them a chance to weigh in. Yes.
As I sit here, shouldn't we kind of use the strategic plan as kind of a guidance for setting goals for you? No?
Well, we do, he does that anyway, but
Well,
this is
well, I
things
know.
that you specifically say, okay, you know, what is he doing that you'd like to see him do different? You know, because this is his evaluation on what we're doing for his job, not necessarily goals for the whole board. Staff will go say.
Okay.
You're right, Pam. I think almost every one of these things would tie to the strategic plan. It's not really a
That's,
big leap.
yeah, it's not, I don't see him as too, I mean, and maybe I'm being too simplistic, but, you know, the strategic plan is the board telling staff what they want to see, right?
Mhm.
I mean, so I
This is the
would,
only employee that we actually,
hello, and
Which
and
is
I,
why-
and so,
So does this boil down to 10 questions, 15 questions, 18 questions? What do we
we
do?
can make as many questions as you
Right, I
want.
mean, Leslie
right?
was trying to figure out what,
10?
well,
And just for the record, I only see the results aggregated.
yeah,
This-
you only see the
Cheryl-
aggregate.
Cheryl does this, the results go to Cheryl.
so she knows who's being critical of you.
And you obviously missed the one about donuts at the committee board.
No, I think I was the one who crossed that out when we saw any of those. Yogurt, fruits.
Okay,
Right, but,
Yeah.
so.
review it and then get back to you.
Review it and send it back to me if you want to send it, you know, I'm just trying to, I would like to get this moving, I think, you know, to get this out so that the questionnaire can go out, you know, and let the board have a chance to weigh in on it, and then also a chance to consolidate the results, whatever those might
What's our
be.
timeline, by the cow, or are you looking later than that?
If you get it to me by the cow, that'd be great. In fact, if you want to take these and say no, 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 or yes, yes, yes on them, and just hand these back to me. I'll
That'd be
take it
terrific,
over.
Joe. Then you could say at the cow that we're gonna be
Here's
sending
where we're
out
at.
an evaluation tool next week or something like that.
Okay.
What do you think, I would like to get this 5-page document in the hand of all 18 board members. Now, the question is, should it could go this afternoon, or it could go with the evaluation tool that you guys developed.
I
Does it matter?
I don't think it
makes
matters.
any
I
difference.
think a little bit of distance, if you got it now, and then this follows in a few weeks, I think there's a little more thought process to it, rather than reading one and trying to answer the other.
Right, I mean, I think that also helps, a lot of board members don't know last year at all, right?
That's true.
So, giving this to look at, and they can think about it,
Sooner than later.
yeah.
Okay, I'll get it out to you in a moment.
Yeah, with the notation that the, yeah.
And I'll make a point at the cow to say something about, here's what's coming.
Right, because when I was like, yeah, I remember that, yeah, you did that. And then, but like, I wouldn't have known, if you gave this to me 2 years ago, and you probably did, and I didn't even, I was like, I don't know what you did, so.
Right, and nobody does.
Some people actually wrote that down, I remember, some people said, I don't really know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that'll get it done, then, so the two new ones, newbies know here what we do. Once that's, information's back in, we draft a report. That generally is in executive session for obvious reasons, because it's personnel. And at that point in time, we hand that report out to Peter, and it goes in his file, and we go from there. So it is a chance to input into how he's acting, or whether we want him to continue doing what he's doing, or to change something or whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Peter before we let him off the hot seat? Okay. If not, we do not have an executive session today. Did I miss anything? There's my sheet. That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, moved by Pam, seconded by Terry to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.